The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Welcome back to Cherry Picking, everybody, and thank you for joining us on episode 62. Of course, we are sponsored by Dental on the Banks. Here's a little bit about them now. Find out more about them, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. So it wouldn't be cherry picking without my main man next to me, Mr. Matthew Harrison. How are you doing, Matt?
Yeah, all good, Craig. Yes, still a bit disappointed from the weekend's result, but obviously we've got this weekend to look forward to, and let's get the show on the road, I suppose.
Yeah, most definitely. And also, it was a great show last time round with Mark Pugh and Neil Meldrum, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's one of those ones that's timeless. You can kind of come back to that one whenever, really, because it's obviously very historical and very interesting. So it was nice to do. It was nice to be speaking to Mark without him telling me what to eat and what to do in the gym. He's not that bad, really. No, he's really good at that stuff. So it was good. It was good to talk to him about that season, and good to reminisce over what was a epic season in the club's history.
Oh, most definitely. And I've been reading through that book again as well. The Rise and Fall of AFC Bournemouth. Do go pick it up and do go and watch that video. If you haven't already, why not? And go watch it. But I tell you what, watch this first because you're here now. So let's find out what is coming up on Cherry Picking this week. Here we go. So in one We have got our weekly game, Guess the Cherry. And I am going to go through the last one from cherry picking episode 60 because, yes, somebody has told me I did forget to reveal it. My bad. My bad. I apologise. You know, even the best hosts get it wrong sometimes, don't they? Well, would you say I'm the best host, really, Matt? I don't think so, really. It's up for debate, isn't it? It's up for debate. Of course, we have got Sharply Dressed Man. What is that all about? AFC Bournemouth have announced a new partnership. Gok Wan was at Dean Court. We're going to discuss that in a little bit of detail. Smithy and Cookie have gone for the chop. What are we talking about? You shall find out. Brighton Rocks, we're going to talk about the Seagulls taking all 3 points. Got to relive it again. And Evan Nilsson relaxed. What do we mean? You can find out all in a little while. So there we are. That is what is coming up. But I tell you what, let's firstly do episode 60's Guess the Cherry again. And I'm going to reveal it this time. Right? Here we go. So you haven't got so long to guess this one this time because, of course, you should have been watching a couple of weeks back. But this cherry was born in Denmark in 1976. He wrote to every professional English club asking for a trial. Mel Machin gave him a trial, scored the last goal at the old Dean Court before it was demolished. He left the Cherries and played for Bradford and Coventry, but he did return to the Cherries for a loan spell and he made 10 appearances for the Faroe Islands. Any ideas, Matt? Well, I think you know because you've written it.
Well, yeah, but I probably would have guessed it anyway, to be fair. But yeah, it is, of course, the one, the only Klaus Jorgensen.
There we go. There is Klaus in all his glory. So there we are. We're up to date then with Guess the Cherry, but I'll tell you what, we haven't done one for episode 62 until now. Here we go.
Yeah. Right, shall I
So,
take it away? Or will
yeah,
you do
take it. You take it
Oh,
away, Matt. You take it away.
That's fine. So this week's Guess the Cherry, born in Leytonstone in 1991, played on loan for Wickham, Torquay, MK Dons, Leeds, Millwall, and Derby. He's represented England from under 16 level up to the under 21s. He signed for Bournemouth in 2014 on a permanent basis. He's a friend of Gareth Bell. And he currently, at the time when I made this, bearing in mind this was back in the summer, he sat 11th in the all-time appearance chart for the Cherries. So who is he?
Well, you shall find out at the end of this episode. And don't worry, I will remember to tell you this time round. All right, so I've got it written down. It's in this little book. There we go. There's my notes. So I tell you what, let's talk about the sharply dressed man. What are we on about? Well, here we go. This is it. So, AFC Bournemouth announced a new partnership with local fashion brand Sandbanks Clothing, who will be the club's arrival wear partner. Named after the stunning Sandbanks area on the club's doorstep, the company will be providing men's first team players with a range of apparel and outerwear to be worn as they arrive for home and away matches in the league and cup competition. Sandbanks are no strangers to AFC Bournemouth, with hands-on involvement from the Redknapp family. So Harry, Jamie, and the crew, who have had a long-standing and proud history with the Cherries. So this is what Sandbanks co-owners Wayne Collins and Sam Harmon said. We are thrilled to be entering into a new partnership with AFC Bournemouth. As a local brand who are passionate about the South Coast, we are united by our location and are delighted to provide a range that the team can be proud of as they enter both the Vitality Stadium and the iconic stadiums throughout the Premier League. AFC Bournemouth Commercial Director Rob Mitchell added, "We are pleased to welcome Sandbanks on board as our matchday arrival partner as we look to grow our brand as well as brands in the local area. It is great to partner with an outstanding local company that already has an established footprint within football and its fashion culture. Born from a desire to help combat environmental challenges we all face, Sandbanks is a luxury fashion brand helping to protect the future of the planet. Their products are made almost entirely from recycled and regenerated materials created from post-consumer plastic waste found in the oceans and landfill. So there we go. There we go. And I tell you what, um, I was looking at some of this stuff a little while back, and
Mm.
it's beautiful stuff. It's expensive. It's expensive, but
Yeah. I mean,
very very nice.
I looked at hat, scarf, and glove set on there, and it was like £215, and I thought,
Mm,
maybe not. But yeah, when you
yeah,
look at the stuff on online, on their online website, it's some really nice stuff. Really nice
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, it's for me. I think it's obviously quite a natural partnership, isn't it? Really, between the club and them. Obviously, it gives them exposure across
yeah,
the Premier League when Bournemouth turn up in their gear. I'm a bit more of a fan, really. I mean, I don't know. I'm more of a fan of turning up in the tracksuits. Do you know what I mean? Like you all
yeah.
coach and you're smartly dressed in your tracksuit, or if you go to cup final day or something, you all go
Mm,
smartly dressed in your suits. I'm a bit more that way, but this I can see why this works. I can see why the club are doing it, and the players look very happy coming into the Brighton game in the gear. But yeah, no, from the company's point of view, I'm sure it's a really, really good deal, and it's going to give them some, really good exposure. So, but yeah, like I say, like you were just saying, I mean, the stuff on the website it's really nice gear, beautiful gear,
Oh, it
beautiful.
is. I'm
Yeah.
just having a little look now, and to be honest, it'll be a bit chilly for this at the moment. But the Sandbanks badge logo polo shirt looks absolutely gorgeous, and
Mm.
that's actually as part of the Black Friday deals at the moment. So, there is some stuff that is reasonably priced. There's some that's we're talking about 70, £80, some shirts. To be fair, £105 for that polo shirt. You would probably spend that in somewhere like Hugo Boss, I would say.
Oh,
Of course,
massively. Yeah. You're
yeah,
right. But I mean, like you say, the polos. When you look at the
mm,
polos, they are beautiful. I mean, they're my kind of polo. Do you know what I mean? I
yeah,
like. I think some of them's really really smart. Some of them are quite golf polo looking as well. As you
yes,
sort of scroll through, and like there's some in the sale for sort of like £90 on there. There's one on there
mm.
for £130, which is bang on looking like a golf polo. So I mean, yeah, the polo range is like you say, it's really nice gear, really nice gear,
But they
really
do
nice.
things from swimwear shorts and things
Yeah.
like that. If anybody wants to upgrade their speedos, to something a little bit more classy,
How much of them just out of interest?
what the speedos? Well, I'll tell
Yeah.
you what. I've found some Sandbank Sunset gradient swim shorts. They're like an orange and red merged, and I tell you what, £100. But I tell you what, looking at them, that's £100 well spent. I think. Yeah, there's some good stuff, some really really good stuff, and the coats look really nice as well. They're like the long jackets and things like that. I always like a long jacket. Um, you know, a little bit Londoner. Can you remember like on Lock Stock where they wear the coats that go down to probably their knees and things like that? Always quite like those sort of things, but
Yeah, vaguely remember.
never had me as a fashionista, did you? To be honest, I'm probably wow. I tell you where I do go. I tell you where I do go. Going on to this, the Gunwharf Keys in Portsmouth, amazing stuff. But yeah, coming back onto Sandbanks, I think this is a good, good partnership. Good
Mm.
partnership, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. No, definitely, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as the season goes on. I'm not sure whether they get allocated different gear each week to wear, or they got sort of the same stuff all season. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of effect it has for their business, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely, and it looks like some nice stuff that they've been given the players, and it is good to have that partnership. Just looking at this Sandbanks Ravine mid puffer jacket in stone, um, it reminds me, of like E7. Was it E17? Stay another day. Stay
Yeah,
another day. Yeah,
yeah.
it looks a bit like that, to be honest. But yeah, there we are. Never had
Hmm,
me as down as a fashion man, did you? But I tell you what, let's talk about somebody that is a fashion man, shall we?
fashion man, eh?
A fashion man, celebrity chef. This man, Gok Wan. He's always, looking, tip top, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, my wife was at an event um,
Mm,
at the Hilton Hotel in Bournemouth,
yes.
um, and she got on the phone to me saying, "You never guess who I've just seen in the Hilton." And I was like, "Who?" She's like, "Gok Wang. He's just got into a Bentley." And of course, the guy that was with him was obviously Mark McAdam from Sky Sports. So
Yep.
and he's obviously had a look round the back areas of the ground, and he's been in the players' tunnel and stuff. And I think it was his first football match, wasn't it?
It was, yeah,
So
it
he's
was.
obviously had a great experience, and I think there's a picture on his Instagram of him selling Mark a hot dog from behind the food foyer and all that, and yeah, he seemed to have had a great day. He was in the north stand, I believe, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah, I think
Mm.
that's what I've heard. I didn't see him myself, but hopefully he enjoyed it. And Mark McAdam, good friend of this channel, of course, brought him along. He did put out a very cryptic tweet on X saying that he was bringing along a friend for his first football match. And of course, it ended up being Gok, and yeah, maybe Gok's wearing a Sandbanks coat there. It's a very nice coat. Um,
I
yeah,
didn't realise. I mean, I don't really know much about him, but I didn't realise he was a DJ as well, and
is
he's
he?
quite a man of talents, isn't he? He's also a chef, and
Yeah,
so yeah, he's got. I just thought he was a guy that did fashion programs on TV, but he's obviously got a lot more strings to his bow than just fashion. So yeah, he's obviously a very talented guy, and yeah, had his experience now of the Cherries, and who knows? You never know. You might see him back at Dean Court again.
yeah, he'll be back. Yeah, he'll be back for the Spurs game. Once a cherry, always a cherry. He's back. He'll be back for the Spurs game. I'm sure Mark will turn around and say, "Well, sorry, I'm going to no on the, it's of course it's on a Thursday night, but yeah, Mark should bring him along again." And I tell you what, even if Mark is presenting and covering off another game across either the Premier League or the EFL, come on, Gok, come on. You're a cherry now. Come join the rest of the crew. So yeah, there we are. So yeah, Gok Wan is a cherry through and through. That could be a song, couldn't it? Gok Wan is a cherry. He's a cherry through and through. Shall I? Yeah, I won't sing again.
Mm, yeah,
Your your nodding just makes me think. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You're
Moving on.
you're singing. You're singing is bloody terrible. So
Yeah,
you wouldn't be far wrong. I'll
no.
tell you what. Let's talk
Moving
about
moving swiftly on.
moving swiftly on. Let's talk about two players who started a little venture. Lewis Cook and Adam Smith are set for the chop. Now, what the bloody hell are we on about? You'll be thinking. Well, this is what I'm on about. So, Adam Smith and Lewis Cook are investors in Grade 92 alongside James Gura Lowe and Kieran Birch on Monday. The brand's sixth location will be open for business. Smith told the Daily Echo, "Me and Lou just thought we'd do it together, invest in it. Just something to do on the side which keeps us occupied outside of football." Smith explained that the decision for the location for the barber shop is due to a lack of gentlemen salons in the area and hopes to be people's new first choice. He said, "I would like to say 90% of the team live around there and the staff members live around there. So it's kind of guaranteed that everyone is going to go there. I'm sure other people will go there for sure because it's lacking barbers in that area. It's not just the barbers, it's like a gentleman's salon as well. So we have got a health spa at the back as well." Grade 92 has 5 other locations, and those are in Castle Point, Southbourne, Ashley Cross, Alder Hills, and Springbourne. And the Canford Cliffs store opened its doors on Monday, the 25th of November. There we are. And I tell you what, it looks bloody good. Because
I'm
of course,
surprised you haven't been in there already, considering it's only down the road from you.
well, I know, I do need to go. To be honest, my hair, I haven't got much of it, as you can tell. It's kind of balding. But me and
Just
Matt
ask
are,
to go lightly on it.
well,
Don't
yeah, I
take
know.
too much off.
Although me and Matt are going over to Turkey because
I
Matt's
ain't
going
got.
to
I
donate
ain't got
some
to
of
go.
his hair
I
to
ain't
me.
got to go nowhere. You can go Turkey on your own. I've got an
Yeah, but
head of hair, mate.
yeah, but
See,
where am
I
I
live
going
on
to get
the
the
road.
hair from? You're going to donate the hair and you're going to stick it in my head.
Well,
That's all right, isn't it?
I'll tell you what. I'll cut some off, and you can take it in a bag with you. You're on your own there.
I think it has to be fresh, so you'll have to come in. Although
Is it?
saying that, we can get drunk as well. You know, or
Yeah.
or
Nice little
or
holiday.
NSU now, off season, he's got loads of it. But yeah, joking aside, joking aside, yeah, it looks a really, really, really nice place. And actually, yeah, I'm sure I have spoken to the other two guys as well, and seen them around. Yeah, did have a little sneaky look through the window the other day, and yeah, it looks a lovely, lovely salon, and fair play to him. It's true. It's true. There's not many salons up this area of the world. Up this area of the world. I make it sound like it's bloody miles away, Matt, but it's not.
Well,
Um,
yeah. But I'm glad you actually mentioned Eunice, because before we touch on the Brighton game, we have got
mm,
a little thing to touch on.
oh yeah, of course. Enisu now is a wanted man. So
Mm.
there we are. It's not just me that wants him for his hair. So here we go. Getafe wants to sign AFC Bournemouth's Enis Unal to improve their attack in the second half of this season. That's according to Estadio Deportivo, who state the La Liga side activate the signing of the striker in the winter market. Unal initially joined Bournemouth on loan from Getafe in January, and his stay was made permanent in the summer. The Spanish club and Real Valladolid have scored the least number of goals, which 10 each, in the league this season. Taking this into account, Getafe manager Jose Bordalas wants his side to strengthen the strike force in the next window, and the focus is on the 27-year-old. The Turkey international was on the sidelines for over 3 months between the end of May and September, resulting in 159 minutes of action from 9 Premier League games this season. Andoni Iraola's side wants to let him go out on loan without a purchase option in January. The Cherries stance pleases Getafe, who will fight to bring him back to the club, who now knows the club and the league, and Stadio state he's open to joining Getafe on a temporary deal. Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Interesting one.
Hmm. It
I
is
mean,
interesting.
it's I'm not surprised really that they're looking at him. To be fair, because obviously he's
Yeah.
not getting game time at Bournemouth. It's quite evident that obviously Even Ilson is the first choice.
Yes.
But what I do like about him, when he comes on and he can be effective, he gives you something different. Just like when we had Dom,
Yeah,
he could come on and he could do something different. If they decided to change Dom up front, and it's similar
yeah,
with Nielsen, isn't it? If they feel they want to go in another direction or they want something different up top, he gives you that. I like the guy. I like the player. I've liked him since he's come in. To be honest,
hmm
he does give you a different option, a different tactic off the bench. But at the same time, if he wants to play football, and he's promised, some first team football for half a season, it might be a case that he takes it. I think it's quite good that, if it's the club's stance that they don't really want to let him go permanently,
yeah,
but they're willing to maybe let him go on loan, which might mean they might have a plan B in mind to bring someone in, because obviously to let him go out, we're going to need to replace.
yeah. Completely
So
agree.
unless the club have already identified potential players to come in on loan, maybe to fill his void, who's quite happy to come in and fight for a place and maybe be a bit of a backup player who can come on and do a decent job for you, then it might be a case that you see that this happen. Obviously, it's early days, isn't it? I mean, we still got another. Was it the 1st of January the transfer window opens? So
Yeah.
we've got little over a month. So now, you're going to see a lot more of these sort of rumours circulating and speculation and things like that. But from the player's perspective, it could be an attractive proposal, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I completely agree. I think, who are we going to bring in? I think it needs to be somebody who can offer something different to Evan Nielsen. I think it's somebody who, of course, can maybe a little bit more of an aerial threat, which I think NSU now does offer. Um, I think maybe Ennis is a little bit more suited to Spanish football,
Yeah, I
but
agree with
I think he'll get there. He'll get there, and he seems to be working hard. There's nothing wrong with his, mentality, and
that.
it shows that because it might be a case we just let him go on loan for a period of time and then, welcome him back at the end of that. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting one. It'll be an interesting one. Who that replacement is, I don't know. I think Victor Gorkarez is, a man that I quite like at the moment, but it seems like everybody's after him, and we should have nabbed him when he was at Coventry all those years ago.
Yeah. That's a very talented name, and
Mm,
also I saw on BBC Sport in the gossip column that obviously United are circling around Kirkez again, as well as Liverpool.
yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff there that's going on with Kirkez. So it's going to be quite a bit of an interesting window for Bournemouth. I don't think it might be a quiet window for Bournemouth this January. I think whether it's comings in or goings out, I think there's going
Mm.
to be a bit of business done by the looks of it, if you believe everything you read in the press.
The thing is do we? I think initially in this window, what we need to do is have and I'm sure Simon Francis looked at this, have a look and make sure we know who to bring in and make sure that they're available and make sure that we can do that deal quickly. But with regards to selling Kirkez, if Manchester United and Liverpool are after Kirkez, I would hold them off as long as we possibly can towards that window, which of course will hopefully push the price up,
Mm.
especially from Liverpool's perspective, because they'll see it as maybe a transfer which can push them over the line to win that title, which they look like they're doing a very, very good job at that at the moment. I would put money on them probably beating Manchester City this weekend coming. But I think, that is what we need to look at is just either are we going to keep hold of these, especially Kirkez, during this window, or are we going to just hold off right until the end? I don't think business will happen right at the very start. Or, if it does, well, it's kind of playing a little bit of roulette, really. Because I think the longer that window goes on, the more that price will be pushed up. I might be completely wrong, you know.
Mm. Well, yeah, no. I
That's
wouldn't
my
necessarily
logic.
disagree, but yeah, there's a lot of press talk surrounding Kirkes, and
Yeah.
we said briefly before, we can kind of understand it, and yeah, it's something that we've discussed on the late night football show as well, with a
Mhm.
Liverpool fan, because if you believe some of the reports, then apparently there's already a 40 million pound deal done. So
Yes.
again, early days, isn't it? And I'm one of these that never believe it until you see the shirt in the player's hands.
Yeah, completely agree. There's so much rubbish that is written about, and there's so many things that do change, even though it might be reported in the media. There's two names, like I always say, to listen to, you know, um, from an AFC Bournemouth perspective. Chris Temple, who I don't think is covering, us as much anymore, but Mark McAdam. Mark McAdam's always got his finger on the pulse, and he'll know exactly what's going on, thanks to the good relationship he does have. But of course, he can't reveal too much if he's asked not to reveal too much, which I think Mark is a professional at that, and that's why he's always the best person to listen to. He's not going to come in and just make something up, which I think
Mm,
a lot of journalists do, just to hype up interest, or it's agent talk. You know, if a journalist says, well, if an agent says, "Can you put this in the Sun to drive up you some interest for this player?" Sometimes it might happen that way. Um, that's referring back to the conversation I had with Andy Bernal, the agent, all that time ago, about 3 years ago now. I tell you what, let's talk about something. It started off so well today. Sandbanks. We're talking about getting our hair cut, and then it's just gone downhill now. We're talking about Kirkes leaving. Let's talk about something completely and utterly depressing. Although, yeah, Brighton rocks. And I tell you what, AFC Bournemouth weren't clinical, and we fell to defeat by small margins, as it says there. We'll go through what is on here, and then we'll have a discussion about this game, because I've got my own opinions on this match. So, a goal inside the opening 5 minutes of each half saw the Cherries beaten by Brighton and Hove Albion. João Pedro opened the scoring after 4 minutes for the visitors, after a Jorginho Rutter shot was saved into his path by Kepa Arrizabalaga in the AFC Bournemouth net. The hosts saw a goal disallowed for offside before half time, before another fast start saw Caro Matoma double the Seagulls' lead 4 minutes into the second period. Carlos Balbea saw red for the visitors with half an hour to play for a second yellow card. The Cherries got a goal back through substitute David Brooks deep into stoppage time, and through everything getting a late equaliser. Anton Semenyo hit the crossbar with the final kick of the game, but the Sussex side headed back across the south coast with all 3 points. Andoni Iraola made one change to his side that was beaten by Brentford before the international break, with Marcus Tavernier coming in for Ryan Christie, who was suspended. Dango Watara returned to the bench from injury, while youngster Max Kinsey was also included in Fabian Hertzler's Seagulls team. That was also included. Fabian Hertzler Seagulls team saw the return of João Pedro and Carlos Balbea to the starting 11. With the rain pouring down and the wind whipping around Dean Court, it was the visitors who got the game underway. Bournemouth had the first sighter on goal as Anton Semenyo shot from the edge of the D, but his effort went past the post. And it took just 4 minutes for Brighton to open the scoring after a well-worked move. Jorginho Rutter played a 1-2 with Danny Welbeck and let fly Kepa, getting down to make a good save, but he palmed it into the path of Pedro, who made no mistake. finishing well. The Seagulls were on top in the opening exchanges, but Bournemouth came back into the half. Justin Kluivert saw a volleyed effort saved comfortably by Bart Verbruggen in the Brighton net before Evan Nilsson saw his shot saved when through on goal. Marcus Tavernier went close with a shot from distance after 20 minutes before Kluivert went close to an equaliser, his shot just going wide after good interplay between Milos Kerkez and Semenyo on the left. Rutter went into the book before Jan Paul Van Heck saw a header from a free kick, easily caught by Kepa, with the keeper setting Bournemouth away on the counter. The Brighton defender got back to block across for the Cherries corner, which was taken quickly to Lewis Cook, and he went down in the box, with Bournemouth fans calling for a penalty, but goal kick was given. Semenyo was booked for a strong challenge in the left corner of the Brighton half before Evan Nilsson had the ball in the back of the net for the home side, but it was disallowed after a VAR check for offside. Kluivert was played in behind by Semenyo and was marginally offside before he then squared it to the Brazilian, who rolled the ball into the empty net. Balbea was booked for hauling down Evan Nilsson on the halfway before the whistle went for the half-time break. The visitors a goal to the good. It took just 4 minutes of the second half for Brighton to double their lead. Rutter playing Karol Matoma in behind brilliantly, with the Japanese forward finishing first time past Kepa. Evan Nilsson nearly halved the deficit just moments later, but he pushed his shot just wide after good work from Semenyo to cut back from the byline. The visitors reduced to 10 men just before the hour mark as Balbea saw a second yellow card for a foul on Kerkez as Bournemouth looked to counter-attack. Semenyo saw a shot saved by Verbruggen at the near post shortly after as the mood lifted inside Dean Court. Adams and Marcos Senesi were replaced by Dungo Watara and Dean Helson on 65 minutes as Rutter and Yao Pedro were taken off by the visitors, with Simon Adingra and Mats Weaver coming on. 10 minutes later, Iriola made another double change, with Adam Smith and Kluivert being replaced by Max Aarons and David Brooks, while Matt O'Reilly came on for Ayari for the Seagulls. Evan Nilsson went close again for Bournemouth, directing a pinpoint clipped cross from Kerkez towards the goal, but Verbruggen got across and claimed it on the second attempt. Brooks fired an effort high and wide after some patient Cherries build-up before Enisu now came on for Kerkez in the Cherries' final change with 10 minutes to play. And Unal nearly made an instant impact, but he couldn't get enough on his header from a Tara cross to get it on target. O'Reilly dragged a shot wide for Brighton before Evan Nilsson glanced a header from a corner over the bar. Welbeck was taken off for the visitors for Evan Ferguson before Semenyo header went over. The Cherries got one back through David Brooks as he finished smartly into the top corner from the right-hand side of the box after he was laid off by Unal. Bournemouth threw everything at getting a late equaliser, with Kepa heading up for a corner in the final moments. The set piece was cleared as far as Semenyo on the edge of the box, who hit a rifle volley that had Verbruggen beaten, but it struck the crossbar and went over, and the referee blew for the final whistle. Iriola said Brighton were more clinical. Bournemouth head coach Andoni Iriola told Sky Sports it was difficult because we scored in the few remaining minutes. The first half was good from us. We had more chances, but they have been more clinical. And in the end, this was what counts. I think we played quite a level game, but especially first half, I think we were better than Brighton. They scored. It was small margins with the offsides. We hit the crossbar in the end. It's been this kind of game. Brighton boss Fabian Hertzler told Sky Sports News, "We have to see the performance with different views. On one side of it, it was not the best football game from our side, but it was a good game to prove our togetherness, to show that we can suffer together and defend together, and that's why I'm proud of my team. The other side is we can play better football in some moments. We were lucky in some moments. Bournemouth were better. The red card changes the game for me. That's why I am proud that we can play better football. Whew. I tell you what, some of the Brighton names are, Adam Lallana would be an easy one to say. um, what do you make of the game last week?
Frustrating, really. We were the footballing wise, we were the better side. I think
Yeah.
really, all credit to Brighton's manager. He's doing an absolutely superb job, isn't he? I mean, they're fifth now, aren't they, in the Premier League, I think.
Yeah.
And it was a case of, when he was appointed, we were all saying, who is this guy? But he's come in and, he's doing a great job. I thought from their perspective, if I was a Brighton fan, that's probably definitely not the best football they've played this season, but they were clinical at the right times, whereas Bournemouth weren't.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with how their defence absorbed the pressure. They dealt with our attack pretty well. And to be fair, even when they went down to 10 men, I mean, you're 2-0 up and you go down to 10 men, and I don't think really it majorly affected them
No.
too badly. But I mean, from our perspective, disappointing because we created chances. I mean, like, what you're reading through there, you had, Semenyo go close a few times. Even Elson went close with his header. Obviously, we had that goal ruled out for that marginal offside. I mean, he was offside. Can't
Yeah.
disagree with it. So I think the problem is, from the performance on the eye, it was a good performance. It wasn't a bad game of football from our perspective, but the most frustrating thing is that we did create chances. And how many games have we watched, not just necessarily in Iriola's time, but obviously, I mean, I can remember going back throughout the years watching a Bournemouth side and not being clinical when they need to be. And I think that's what cost us really on Saturday. I think if we'd come away with a draw from it, I think you could have looked at that and gone, well, fair play to Brighton. They're doing really well. They're a tough side to beat. They've had a good run of results, beating the likes of City and, like we've done recently. That they're well on their way to, potentially, because there's a long way of the season to go, compete for a European place. So really, if we'd have come away with a draw, to be honest with you, I don't think I, could have really argued that not being a fair result. But from our perspective, the most frustrating thing for me is how clinical we weren't in front of goal. And if we had been, we'd have been talking about a totally different game, obviously. But it's just. But then again, there's a long way of the season to go. We've beaten a fair few decent sides throughout this season already. Yeah, we're on a little bit of a blip at the minute in terms of result wise, but we're in a much better position than this time last year. So in terms of points, so again, that's a sign of progression. And we pick ourselves up, we go again. We look at Wolves now. Obviously, from a playing perspective, they were looking at the next game as soon as that game had finished, and that's the right way to be, isn't it? You can't dwell on things too long. You've got to pick yourself up and go again and try and get things right on the training field. But yeah, it's a disappointing one. Definitely disappointing for the rest of that Saturday evening because it would have been nice to get something out of the game, but I can't really fault.
No, that's
there's debates about I know some people are saying about goalkeepers and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it's not a goalkeeper that makes a team, is it? It's 11 players.
no.
So yeah, disappointing is how I would sum it up. Disappointing and frustrating.
I think though Kepa could have done more about that first goal though.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to the Brentford game, and I think 2 of those goals for definite. Kepa
Yeah,
probably could have done better. But at the same time, when you're having chances in front of goal, you can always concede 2, but then score 3.
yeah,
When you're not taking your chances in front of goal, that, for me, sometimes, is slightly, more important in some respects. Because if you can
mm,
always score more goals than your opposition, it's natural you're going to win games. It's quite simple, isn't it? It's not hard to work
yeah,
that one out. But yeah, so I mean, I don't want to really lay the blame at at the goalkeeper's door at
mm,
all. But just from our perspective, I mean, if I think if I was the gaffer looking at that, I would be saying to the boys, we've got to be more clinical in
yeah.
those important stages of the game and in those areas on the pitch. I mean, that's just the way I see it.
Yeah, yeah, I think no, it's a fair point. Even though think Mark Travers should get the nod over Kepper, and we've spoken about that before, but I still feel that sometimes I think Travers's position in goal is a little bit better than Kepper. Kepper does make some more rash decisions, but like you say, yeah, he is the 10 men in front of him. I think what Brighton did very, very well is that Fabian Hertzler did a job on us. Let's be fair.
Oh,
He did,
tactically and
yeah,
yeah, the way he got them, I
yeah,
mean, yeah, you're spot on with that. I mean, you can't take credit where credit's due. He's done his
yeah,
homework. And I think that shows, the us, all us fans in the Premier League,
mm,
and you know what kind of manager he is. I think he's very, very, very precise to his last detail.
yeah,
And I was very impressed with that. And I think all credit to Brighton, because I think their
mm,
recruitment system is fantastic.
yeah,
Um, whether it's players or management. I mean, you look at the managers they've brought in over the years; they've always done well for Brighton, haven't they? In sort of recent years.
yeah,
And when we last played them, and obviously we beat them quite convincingly. The manager, I think, knew he was on his way out the door. I think there was
mm,
complacency within the squad. They'd had a difficult, run of games with the European games being added to it. So I think it was a totally different Brighton side that we saw from the last time we saw at Dean Court.
yeah,
And they're a talented bunch. I mean, they've got some really, really good players. Um, yeah, but then when you look at it from our perspective, we could have beaten them.
yeah. And I think I don't think I think that we were the better side for
On the
large
eye,
amounts of
definitely
that
on the eye. And I
game.
didn't watch the match of the day highlights because someone texted me and said, what was the game like? Is it worth watching match of the day? And I thought, well, match of the day probably wouldn't give much justice to Bournemouth's performance, considering
Yeah,
mainly we focused on the Brighton side of things, and rightly so, they won the game.
yeah,
It would be a case that really, if you sat there and watched the whole game through, you'd probably get a more realistic feel for the game, and
yeah.
how Bournemouth did. But yeah, overall, it's disappointing, isn't it?
I thought that as well. Brighton are the first team to really properly this season overrun our midfield. They knew, and what I mean by overrun, maybe overrun's the wrong word,
I think,
because
I
I think they knew where to stop. They knew what we were going to do. They stopped a lot of those really clever plays that we have seen against Man City, Arsenal,
yeah,
even Chelsea.
but there is a name there that you can mention with that, and you're spot
Mm,
on with what you're saying. I mean, you know, Cook, sung his
yeah,
praises a lot of times. Adams, he's a decent player. I like what he can do. I like his
yeah,
leadership, but we missed Christie's intensity
yeah. Agree.
massively in that midfield, because I mean, he runs and runs and runs.
Mm,
We know what he's like. Christie, he's a great player, and I think that's one of the reasons why you're saying what you're saying, because we
yeah.
missed that intensity in the midfield there from Christie. I mean, he was only suspended, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he was.
So he should be back hopefully for the Wolves game.
Yeah.
And really, for me, I mean, I know we're going to have an issue with Semenyo not being involved, and I know we've got, if it's Sinisterra still going to be out.
Yeah, he will be.
There's going to be
Yeah.
a bit of juggling around, so you never know. Christie might come back in the side, but maybe in a different position. But I think,
Mhm.
in terms of putting him back inside alongside Cook, I think is very important. I think for the next game, and like you say, with what you're saying,
Yeah.
that's what we missed on Saturday in that midfield.
Yeah. Yeah, completely agree. And Christie would have made such a difference to that match. Would have made, and I think he would have brought it forwards a lot more than where I think we was trying to pass our way through Brighton, and Brighton had it to a T. Whereas Christie would have made those little runs, into spaces where,
He's good at winning the ball back as well. You see,
yeah, exactly,
breaking down the play as well,
exactly,
and I think we missed that from him as well.
yeah,
But from their perspective, them not playing well and still winning is a good sign
mm,
of having a good season, isn't it?
it is, yeah, it
Because they can
is,
play better than that. I mean, I've watched a couple of games this season with Brighton, and they've played a lot better than what they played against us. But it
yeah,
just proves, doesn't it? Sometimes you don't need to play well; you just need to do the job.
mhm,
And they did the job on us. And like we've said, it's probably credit to the manager for getting his
yeah.
tactics and his homework spot on. Really,
Good teams win matches that way. They do,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, I'm just thinking as well. David Brooks coming on at the end.
Mm.
I wonder if that is with thought of maybe put Brooks where Semenyo would normally be, and so Christie can return to his normal position.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think it'd be good to see Brooksy start,
Yeah,
and it'd be good to see Christie back in that midfield role. Obviously, that's a decision for the
yeah,
manager to make. But I think if I was in charge for Saturday, then that's I think what I would do. Um, I do like Brooksy's impact on the bench as well, but I
hmm,
think maybe with the players that we've got out, and it might be an idea to maybe introduce him into the starting lineup. Um, I think he'd probably go with Dongo,
yeah,
um, and Tavernier and Clivert. But yeah, I think Brooksy's earned a start. Be good to see him start.
yeah.
Different game though. I mean, we're looking at a side that you know who I don't think anybody really gave a chance of beating Fulham by the scoreline they did. So they're
Wow.
going to be on the up. Um, so they're going to be really up for this game, and obviously
Mm,
Gary O'Neill's going to be up for the game, obviously being his former club. So I think Saturday's game suddenly becomes a little bit more tricky than what it
mhm.
probably would have been a few weeks ago.
And of course, I've done the preview with Dave Asapardi. That is going live, of course, on Friday morning. So it might already be live. And there's been a lot of discontent with Gary O'Neill, from the Wolves camp. Some Wolves fans are being frustrated, but there is no denying that they have had the hardest start out of anybody in the Premier League this season. And
And lost a lot of decent players as well. So
yeah,
yeah. So
it's an interesting preview though, because I always thought, and this is from looking from the outside in at Wolves, I always look at them as that they've lost a lot of players, and that because of those losses of players, that the owners have decided to sell, by the sounds, over the head of the manager. That they are a depleted squad. They might have a decent first 11, but not a decent squad. But please do watch that preview straight after this show, because it is very, very interesting what Dave from Talking Wolf says, because it really is. It's a really, really interesting view that he's got, because I was making the point for Gary and saying that might be a
Oh,
reason.
were you?
Yeah.
Why does that surprise me?
Yeah. Oh, Gary O'Neill's fan club here.
Mm.
I'll just get the little. What they called, the things that used to years ago used to have like a square on them and used to rattle it and used to do in the circle. What are they called? Like
Yeah,
rattler
I know.
things.
Yeah, I know what you're on about,
What are they
but
called?
I can't remember. I can't remember what they're called, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
There we are. As well as this week's guest the cherry, anybody that can help me, put it in the comments section. I'll tell you what, let's talk very quickly about Evan Nielsen being relaxed, and Andoni
Mm.
Iraola's come out and said that Evan Nielsen has relaxed into his role at AFC Bournemouth. And that's good. That's good. I think it kind of, because I was concerned at first, but of course, a player who's never played in English football before coming over here, it's a different intensity, different speed. I think he's found his feet now, like Iriola says, and feels at home here, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it's good to see. It's good to hear from the manager that that he's finding his way now, and unlucky again not to be on the score sheet at the weekend, wasn't he? Through the offside,
Yeah,
which
he
again
was
would have took
marginal.
yeah. But at the end of the day, it was offside, and unfortunately, he
Yeah,
was the player to put the ball in the back of the net, and get ruled off and chalked off his stats. But yeah, for me, I think it's key that he's settled in. I didn't think he was ever going to settle straight in anyway. But I'm
no,
glad it's happened. It is, as quick as it has. And he's starting to
yeah,
score. We all know it's simple, very simple football stuff. If a
mhm,
striker's happy and they're scoring goals, then that's what you want. And
exactly.
hopefully on Saturday he can hopefully get another one in the goal for us. So gives another one on his tally and keeps his confidence going. That's what I think we need to hope for now, is that he can carry on, scoring and getting on that score sheet. I mean, realistically, are we expecting sort of 19 goals in the Premier League like Dom got us last season?
Mm,
For his first season, no. I mean, if he was to get into double figures, hit 10, 11 goals this season, I think that's a really good return on his first season while, he's settling in. And then you kick on again for the next season. And I think I could see him getting 10, 11 goals this season. I can't see why not.
yeah,
Hopefully he gets more. Love to see him get more. But I think hitting double figures would be a good return. And, it's just good to hear from the manager that, he seems to be settling in well. And, yeah, long may it continue. Long may he stay fit and starts producing the goods on the pitch.
yeah, definitely. Well, I tell you what, let's wind wind down, wind up. Well, what am I talking about?
I can wind him up
Le-
if you want.
yeah, you could do, to be honest. But I tell you what, let's finish the show with Guess the Cherry. So, here we go. This week's Guess the Cherry. See, I didn't forget. I've got it written down. It always helps when I do that. So, this cherry was born in Leytonstone in 1991. Played on loan for Wickham, Torquay, MK Dons, Leeds, Millwall, and Derby. Represented England from under 16 level up to the under 21s. Signed for AFC Bournemouth in January 2014. I'm losing my teeth today, aren't I? I don't know what I'm doing.
Have you stuck your dentures in properly today?
I'll tell you what, yeah. The odd gaff, isn't it? And he's a friend of Gareth Bale. He currently sits 11th in the all-time appearances chart for the Cherries. So, who is he? He's a current player because he currently sits 11th in the all-time appearances chart. It is the one, the only Smudge. There he is, Adam Smith. One of the most important players I think we've had throughout, our history. Definitely our
Um,
recent history.
yeah, he's always going to be a player that's you know always fondly thought of
Yep.
Smithy.
Definitely.
Yeah, great player, great servant. You don't find players, many players these days that stick around at a club for, 10 years. Hopefully he gets a testimonial. I think he deserves one, just like
Definitely.
Steve Cook did, who unfortunately, didn't get it in the end. But, Cookie definitely deserved a testimonial, and so does Smithy. So, I do hope we see that, because he's also our leading Premier League appearance maker.
Oh, yeah.
So, he had that short loan spell at the club, and obviously he went around on loan to quite a lot of the clubs and come back to Bournemouth and made it home. And he's now the captain. He deserves it. I think he deserves a testimonial. It's something I would really like to see happen for him.
Yeah, I agree completely. And he's got a great barnet as well, and he'll cut your barnet as well for a fee. So yeah, go
I
get
don't know whether
yourself.
is he doing personal
I
cuts? Is he?
I don't know. I don't know, but maybe I should do that for charity. Maybe there we are. That's a charity fundraiser. There you are. If you're watching it, Smithy, I'm quite happy to have my hair cut by you, and we'll get Cherries fans to throw some money into a pot, and they can decide what the hairstyle is. I'll come out with
There ain't much hair to play with, so we were quite limited on styles.
And on that bombshell, I think we should end. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next cherry picking.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.